Welcome to this training video for the California Department of Education for the Observation Protocol for Teachers of English Learners, the OPTEL. The purpose of this video is to provide you with a practice observation opportunity before using the OPTEL tool with your students. Please note that this video assumes you are already somewhat familiar with the basic components of the tool, but you can visit www.cde.ca.gov for additional information on the OPTEL, including the OPTEL User Guide, the English Language Development or ELD standards, and support for designing ELD standards aligned instruction, including the English Language Arts English Language Development Framework. Let's start by providing an overview of this video. This video will show clips from two lessons, a grade 4 designated English Language Development or ELD class, and a 4th grade science class with integrated ELD. These clips can be found on the California Department of Education's Integrated and Designated English Language Development Transitional Kindergarten through Grade 12 video series. For this observation, we will be watching the student whose picture is on this slide. For reference, the student has on a gray zip-up sweatshirt with pastel hearts on it. After we watch the video clips, we will demonstrate how we might use the OPTEL score to score what we observed of this student's reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills in the video clips. Please keep in mind that this is meant to be a practice opportunity for using the OPTEL tool, but it is not meant to illustrate the only way to take notes or interpret the student's English language proficiency. Let's start. We will be scoring the student's receptive skills, that's listening and reading, on page 1, and her expressive skills, that's speaking and writing, on page 2. Make sure you have the tool handy. As you watch, you may want to note the evidence you would use to support your scores. On both pages 1 and 2, toward the lower right-hand side of the page, you will see a box. The box has the prompt, "What did you consider that led you to mark this level?" You can type or write notes here, or you can record them on a separate paper and attach them to the tool later. We will now watch two clips. First, we'll watch a clip in which the student engages in a reading activity in a designated ELD lesson. The lesson builds into and from the science content in the second video clip. For the designated ELD instruction, the focal ELD standards driving the lesson, all at the bridging level, are Part 1, Standard 1, Exchanging Information and Ideas. You'll see the student speaking with her partner. Part 1, Standard 6A, Reading, Viewing Closely. You will see the student reading a text closely. And Part 2, Standard 2B, Understanding Cohesion. You will see the student analyze the text for its cohesive devices or text connectives. For Clip 2, the Science with Integrated ELD instruction occurring later the same day, the supporting next-generation science standards used in tandem with the focal ELD standards include Science Performance Expectation, Grade 4, Earth and Space, Science 3, Subitem 1, Earth and Human Activity. We will now view the video clips accompanied by information about the lesson. You'll notice a change in the voice for the voiceover accompanying these clips. My voice will return after the classroom clips end.
The students that we will be watching in this video are in the middle of a unit on renewable energy, and in particular, they're looking today at solar energy as a resource. We're going to see first a portion of a 4th grade designated ELD class that has the following objective. We will write a sequential explanation to explain how solar panels work. In the first segment of our video, students are independently reading a text about solar panels and identifying sequential text connectives. Before we observe our student, let's take a look at the text she'll be working from. How do solar panels work? Now that we've learned how sunlight is converted into electricity, how do we actually make use of it? A solar panel is made up of groups of solar cells. Remember, solar cells make sunlight into electricity. To begin, the panels must be carefully positioned to get the maximum amount of sun exposure in order to convert the most energy possible. At the same time the sun hits the panels, the energy is made into electricity. At last, a solar inverter helps turn the electricity into power that can be used. As a result, the energy will be used for household appliances like refrigerators and stovetops. The more panels you have on a roof, the more solar electricity you produce.
Sunlight is converted into electricity. How do we actually make use of it? A solar panel is made up of groups of solar cells. Remember, solar cells make sunlight into electricity. To begin, the panels must be carefully positioned to get the maximum amount of sun exposure in order to convert the most energy possible. At the same time the sun hits the panels, the energy is made into electricity. At last, a solar inverter helps turn the electricity into power that can be used. As a result, the energy will be used for household appliances like refrigerators and stovetops. The more panels you have on your roof, the more solar electricity you produce.
During the next segment of the lesson, students are talking to a partner and sharing the connectives that they found while they were reading, along with the ideas that they connect within the text.
First, I saw where to begin, then I saw at last, and then last I saw as a result. And I thought, because when I was reading, I saw to begin the panels must be carefully positioned to get the maximum amount of sun exposure in order to convert the most energy possible. So I underlined it because it was a connective.
I agree with that. I saw to begin, and then at last, and then I saw as a result, and I think at last because it says at last a solar environment helps turn the electricity into power that can be used.
In this segment of the lesson, students will be working with the same partner to rephrase in their own words a portion of the text they've just read using a sequential text connective.
So then the sun hits the panels and it turns it into electricity.
After the sun was hitting the solar panel,
which connector are you guys thinking of?
The energy was
okay, you can use that one. And then what would you do to explain the rest? Then what?
Then the sun hits the panels and it turns into electricity.
You know how I know that's her own words? Is because she looked at me and told me what it was. It wasn't just reading it from the text. I love that. Go ahead and write that.
Later in the same day, the same English learners we saw earlier engage in a science lesson with integrated ELD. Their objective is to describe the process of how solar energy works. In the first segment of the science lesson, students are engaging in a short experiment with a flashlight and a solar-powered toy light.
You guys have a little different one, so you are actually going to hold it up. And I want you to count to 10. After you count to 10, you are going to cover the solar panel. But do it like that. Chris will hold it and hold it up to it real close. You can go up closer. Count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
and cover it.
It's a light.
I knew that would happen because
I knew that.
that's
weird.
That's really weird. I want to do it again.
That's weird. Okay, wait. Let's. Wait, but how do we turn it off?
I don't think turn it off. Wait, let's try doing it to see if it turns off. Let's see if it can turn off.
Yeah, let's see if it can turn off. Ready? So hold it again.
No, cover.
Oh.
Okay, go.
How does that? No, I think you should take it off.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it off. Oh gosh, that is.
Okay, so go ahead now. Did you cover it up?
Yeah, it makes it light.
It turns on.
I predicted that because we had a different one, so I predicted that was gonna make it light, and I got it right.
Why do you think that works? Why do you think that's happening here?
Because the sun's rays went in it and then made it go into something to make it light. So it's like the sun going into a solar panel and making electricity for a light bulb.
At this point in the lesson, students have read and become experts in a portion of a text. In this segment, they are explaining a portion of that text to other students who have not read that same text.
A solar cell is what converts sunlight into electricity, which is a quote.
Is that your words or in the text?
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's in the text. So it's like quoted.
Just get like 2 details. That's okay. And then you
So, what paragraph?
Paragraph 2.
This solar cell converts sunlight into electricity, right?
Yep.
So the first sentence?
Yeah, the first sentence.
Yeah. Okay.
Kimberly, your information.
Okay, so first is, initially the panels are placed to get the most sunlight to receive energy. That's in the first box.
what does initially mean, Kimberly?
Initially means first.
Good. So she replaced it, and it had to begin, but she put it in her own words. So she said initially.
Initially.
So tell them what you put after that. Initially what?
Initially, the panels are placed to get the most sunlight to receive energy.
That's a good fact. So why don't you guys write that one down?
The panels are. So the next one for solar panels is, then the sun hits the panels and it converts it into electricity.
So
After the energy is being converted into after the energy is being converted into electricity.
after the energy is converted to electricity.
Is being converted into electricity.
Wait, I need an eraser.
Then what is
After
being
the energy is being never mind. I don't need an eraser. After the energy is being
converted into electricity.
Electricity.
So the last box says, at last, the electricity is being used for most stuff we need, like stovetops, refrigerators, and televisions.
In the last segment of the lesson, students have been asked to consider their experiment and their reading and write a short explanation about why their experiment worked. Let's take a look at our students' writing.
Now let's consider how we might score this student's skills using the Optel tool. I'll do this as a think aloud, as if this were my student and I was scoring the language I observed in my class earlier that day. I'll start with noting the instructional settings, which is recorded in the box in the top right corner. This box is recording information about the instructional setting or settings in which the student was observed. Now, I observed my students' expressive and receptive skills on the same day. That means I can fill out the instructional setting information on pages 1 and 2 in the same way. I observed my student during both ELD and science instruction. Now, on both pages 1 and 2, I'll fill out the fields for interaction types. On each page, these appear at the middle of the right-hand column. The options for interaction types are whole group, one-to-many, small group, one-to-few, pairs, one-to-one, and other. Before I complete this box, you might wish to pause the video and consider how you would fill it out on your own. I observed my student listening and reading and speaking and writing in a small group and partner setting. So I will mark both of these options on both pages 1 and 2. Now, under Other on pages 1 and 2, expressive and receptive skills, I would add a note for independent reading, since I observed her reading aloud to herself. And under Other for page 2, expressive skills, I would indicate I observed her writing independently as well. Now let's interpret the observational evidence we collected. I'll begin with page 1, receptive skills performance descriptors. I can mark the level of my students' English language proficiency in listening and reading, the receptive skills. I will do so based on the preponderance of evidence I collected. Before I do, you might wish to pause this video and consider how you would fill out page 1 on your own. I have 4 sets of proficiency level descriptors to consider: Level 1, Level 2, Level 3, and Level 4. Based on this observation, my student is able to read at a level that is on par with her 4th grade English proficient peers with minimal linguistic support. She read a complex grade level text containing grade level or above domain-specific and academic vocabulary, as well as complex grammatical structures. She then demonstrated comprehension of this text during her peer interactions. In terms of listening skills, her participation in her grade level discussions with her EL and non-EL peers shows she was able to comprehend the conversation and without any linguistic support. I will therefore mark that this student is at level 4, mid to late bridging, for her receptive skills. I now turn to page 2, expressive skills performance descriptors. I now need to consider the preponderance of evidence around my students' English language proficiency level in speaking and writing, the expressive skills. Before I do, you might wish to pause this video and consider how you would fill it out on your own. With regard to speaking, my student consistently expressed her thoughts and ideas at a level of parity with her 4th grade English proficient peers. She used grade-appropriate, discipline-specific, and general academic vocabulary and syntax in her partner and small group discussions, and she did so without linguistic support. I would consider her speaking proficiency at a level 4. However, I must also consider her writing. Now let's imagine this. Let's imagine that I noticed that when my student was provided with additional support during designated ELD, the opportunity to discuss her ideas and work collaboratively with a partner, let's say I noticed her writing was close to or on par with what her English proficient peers would have produced. However, when asked to write independently and without linguistic support during Science with Integrated ELD, let's say I noticed her writing was not yet at a level of parity with her grade level English proficient peers. For example, I might have noticed that she included accurate content and grade level vocabulary, but that her text connectives connected clauses in a way that left the connections between ideas unclear. In that case, I would mark this student's writing proficiency at a level 3. I would now have to come up with an overall rating for my student's expressive skills across the 2 domains. Since the student's writing proficiency was at a level 3, it would be inaccurate to say that she is at a level 4 overall in her expressive skills. As such, I would rate this student's expressive skills at a level 3 overall for this observation. This concludes our brief scoring demonstration. We encourage you to view this video with colleagues and use it as a foundation for doing some more scoring practice and calibration in actual classrooms in your local context. Thank you for engaging in this training. For further guidance and practice related to using the Optel, please visit www.cde.ca.gov.